can't let the outside stop us from realizing our dream. And I think that's a big part of what new form technology is about. It's actually an introduction at the beginning of a new age that we hope to set. Just like in the time, if we go back all the way to Aristotle and Plato and Socrates, it was one at one, sharing together, speaking with each other, asking questions, that a new age of beginning to think for oneself began. A new academy that would begin a totally new age. And it's our hope that we are here in the midst of Silicon Valley, where there's all the computers, where everything goes fast. Everything there's a lot of money. There's power. There's devices that can change the world and communicate all over the world. But with all the devices, we're moving in a direction that's kind of away from, well, what about us? What about us as human beings? What about evolving ourselves but not devices? And I'd say those are the two huge temptations. With all the device we develop, we are able to speak with someone across the world on a cell phone. We're able to communicate super fast, but it's not through our own faculty. We're using a device. And it's easy. How could we go to not just change the outer, but change ourselves in a way that help us rediscover what is sacred? So here Frank says we're trying to work with sacred geometry. And what makes it sacred? What is the sacred? I mean, in the past it was a tie-in into the church. What was sacred was the church. And in the church we're trying to unite with God. And now we're not speaking about the church, but what is sacred and what is profane? What is daily life? And there's something amazing, like Google a couple of years ago hired this guy, Ray Kurzweil, who was kind of this freak of computer and loved computers so much that he wants them. He's like, human being is just a passage. The computer is so more evolved than us. They're so beyond us. And in a few, hopefully his goal is to preserve the human personality by downloading ourselves into a computer. That's his dream. To provide immortality through computers. And Google hired this guy and put thousands of engineers at his service and all the power and all the money he wants to realize this dream of providing immortality to the human being. So this seeking to God, this kind of strange part, is a need, but some people try it through technology. And the belief of this person is that we're just dust, going back to dust. But we're so clever that we might be able to create a machine where we can escape our fate to become dust again. But if we actually go deep, and that's what we work out of, saying, no, man is not actually, doesn't come out of dust. The human being comes out of God and is meant to go back to God. And it's, can we go back to God? Depends if we can discover the sacred again. Not going through church, but now by finding that in our own human being, there's a sacred part of us who is like God. That we have a God within. But we need to discover that part of us. And then it's more that part in us to wake it up, to make it become alive and activated, so that we can become immortal, not by a gizmo outside, but by our own effort. That we are the product of what we made ourselves. And that key to that was that in the pole of the head, we are very clever. And through the will, we can actually do. We have a lot of power. But hidden between the two, with all the cleverness that you can find, you will not find God. And with all the things you could do on earth, you will still not find God. But if you can find what's in between, what's in the heart, that within the heart is the seed of the God within. And that's what Frank, inspired by the work of Rudolf Steiner, was able to discover and follow his own heart's dream and find the geometry of the God within. And that's what makes it sacred again. That it's not, when you discover that, it's not through computer, but it's actually with a compass and a ruler. It's you through your concentration and doing it, bringing your will, your thinking, and everything together, that you become creative. And that more important, nothing is more important than our own creativity. Our own creativity, but in touch with the sacred part of us. And that's what the kind of the beginning Academy of New Form Technology, that we a new schools of geometry, where we do geometry together, where we do try to do activity that unites our creativity with that part that's sacred. And for a moment we do an exercise where it's more than just daily life. We're more concentrated, we're more precise, and our whole feeling life is fully involved. And out of that, that's one aspect of new form technology. But here we also do research on these forms, and you could see this came out of some of the forms that emerged, and it was inspired. I think so. We did, when he discovered this form, he really wanted to know, what else could I discover with it? And there's a man in Japan that does photography of crystals. And what we did, we sent him a Chestahedron, and he put water in it. So there was distilled water put in the form, and distilled water just on its side, for 24 hours. And then he took photograph of the water as it freezes. So it's 5 different drops, and they're freezing, and he takes pictures of it, and then they melt together. And as you can see, water, just regular distilled water, didn't form, this one formed a bit of crystals, but not great. And then after spending 24 hours, look at the crystals. They're definitely more complex, harmonious. And Frank was so excited, because then it speaks that angles, shapes, architecture is not abstract. It actually does influence water directly in its structure, its molecule structure. Water is being changed. And we are made of 80% water. So if you are in a beautiful building with angles and things, it affects your consciousness. It makes you more clear. It makes you being in touch with the sacred. That's why if you go and chart in France, this gorgeous cathedral, all the proportion in the cathedral are according to the golden mean, a special ratio of nature. And when you walk in there, you feel different. It helps you reconnect with what's sacred. And there's good reason why you go do business, and it's a square, a skyscraper. You don't go there to revere God or to be in touch with the sacred. You go there to do business and get things done. And so what we surround ourselves influences greatly. So out of this research, the idea emerged, oh, could we have a place where we could actually sit in it? So we made a chair that you can just sit in a place, and then it kind of helps you reconnect a little bit with yourself. And does it really work? And we brought it to different shows and different things. And it's amazing to see everyone who comes in it and sit in it, that won't work. What the heck is this? And we're like, no, just try it, sit in it. And then they're in it, and it's like, yeah. And it's amazing. So many people suddenly, hey, what's going on with this thing? And there's some people come and they're really excited. Oh, amazing, this chair. And then they come back and they're just a bit more centered into their feet. And others who feel really low. One came who had just had heart surgery a week before. And he sat in the chair. And after 5 minutes, he looked at us and he said, this is amazing. It's the first time I feel my heart. After my surgery, I could not feel my heart. And he said, now I feel it. And he walked outside, and his friends saw him, and they were like, what the heck happened to you? You look better than we've seen you in a while. And he said, I don't know, I sat in this crazy chair over there. You should try it. And it's like, okay. Simple little things, but it arose out of something. It's kind of a new technology that we're not so familiar with. And it's beyond just fantasy, but yet, as you've seen, it's art and science coming together. And it allows to help not just the outer part of us, but how to bring our inner and our outer together. Our intention and what we do are often pretty kind of separate. And it's how do we bring those together? So, we could show you a little bit of the research that we've done. Was that we look at the blood samples. There's something called dark field microscopy. So you take live blood from the finger and you put it on a slide, and we have a microscope. And then
we're here.
And then you get to see the blood alive, the little cells moving around. So what we did, we took the blood of someone, and we made them sit in there, and we tested every 10 minutes to see, is the blood changing? Is it an improvement? And you can see a little video of it, pretty short. The space between all these little balls is something that's important. And as you can see, like, the space between. So that's kind of things we're trying to test, because it's really hard to test the living, not the quantification, but how could we get a picture of how the living change, and we're a living being. What makes someone healthy and unhealthy, it's really hard. So the dark field microscopy is one way to look at how the blood moves and different things, and we've done some tests. If you spend a lot of time with strong computer and Wi-Fi, and you can see that the blood cells getting contracting and contracting. And that's why after a while, if you do too much, you kind of feel just low. And if you go run outside and do something, get your blood going, it helps the life get back. And another part, we gave you some water, and one of the process that this water has been applied to is to try to spin this form. Because it's in the heart, this form helps the blood come back to life and be full again. So we wondered, could we apply this form to water and see if it helps enliven water? A lot of the water we drink is very dead, but how could we enliven it? So you can see here, we have a little tester. And when we spin the form, there's this kind of unique thing that happens, is that the vortex has a rhythm, and you can watch it happen when we start it. It starts spinning, and it's slowly organizing. I put some leaf drums so you get to kind of see a little bit of movement. And you see how it stops, and then it starts again.
Oh my God, it's so cool. Yes.
So to our great surprise, that form brings a rhythm into the water. So in pursuing those, I'll let you, we made actually a mixer so that you can like water your garden bigger, and we have bigger size based on this same thing to actually mix water or fertilizers in it. And we did some research, and I think I might have shown you a little pamphlet of the plants I grew with it and what it looked like. It definitely made a great difference. And where I'm speaking right now with big companies, at least one pretty big company does liquid fertilizer, organic fertilizers, and they are really interested in working with it to mix their big batches and to bring that energy, this enlivening, all the way to the fertilizer, to the plant, and to the food that we eat, so that the food that we eat can become real medicine and actually helps us then achieve our real freedom. Because Rudolf Steiner did an amazing statement. People ask him, how come people study, spiritual ideas, study all kind of things, they have a great idea, but they can't do it. How to bring an idea in your dream all the way into demons. And his answer was, the food we eat doesn't add what it should. So we don't receive from the food we eat the energy to really do our dreams. We tend to kind of get distracted easily. So there's something about, so we wanted to really help the whole biodynamic impulse and helping that our food can actually be healthy, strong, filled with character and flavor, and help us be full of character and flavor, not tasteless and characterless. We don't want cheap, we want each of us to become full, individual, colorful. And so that's one of the aspects. We do research here. We have some kind of school of geometry that's going to begin this summer. We offer some classes, and we have a kind of foundation for Frank, where all of this, we're hoping that we sell jewelry and do different things so that we can actually build a beautiful architectural center, the heart research. So a new architecture based on the Decatur and the Chestahedron. It would be a performing arts center where there would be also, the art would be displayed, there would be people performing and doing research on the heart and doing research that helps men go back to God by finding God within, not outside. So that's a picture. And for the last 20 minutes, we have a heart animation, so you could see, how is this form like the heart. It's not easy to see in the beginning, the connections. So maybe we could just show you that. And if you have any question after, and then you can roam around the little gallery. We have a little gallery of art. It's original from Frank's. And there's kind of things around. You're welcome to look, test. If you had time to. Something that Frank discovered too is a few fun kind of toys to stimulate imagination and geometry with just 8 sticks. You go from 2 dimension to 3 really fast, just by how you move. You go back into the flower of life and go back to the cube. And there's a few here you can play with and discover all kinds of forms. Like the same one, you can just spin it one movement, oh, 2 pyramid appears. So I'll let you explore, and those that have seen that when we spin things, what happens and how they change. And this, you'll see this form inside, which this and the Chestahedron have a relationship. When you transform this into a star, you stretch this through the side and all the sides, you get this star. And it's very interesting. You could take it apart and look at it. But the distance between this and the center of the form is the same distance as the center of the Earth to the orbit of the Moon. The dimension. And this is filled with golden ratio. So there's all kind of interesting relationship discovered. And obviously the human heart is something that's the first time that doctors are being able to understand a bit deeper what's going on. Do you have it ready?
Yeah, we can show the animation now.
And if you want to say something, Stephen, about.
So we spent the last year building this animation in Maya. You're probably familiar with the 3D animation software Maya. And so when Frank discovered the Chestahedron, there was more forms that he found inside. And through his research, he discovered that it was the geometry of the heart. So what you're seeing here is how the heart actually rhythmically beats both the inner and the outer form of the heart. There'll be a number of animations that play. This is actually an orthographic image. You probably know from your mechanical drawing classes. So you're seeing the never before seen top, front, side, and isometric of the heart. So the heart actually isn't a pump. It actually uses vortexes to use both suction and pressure to move the blood through your body, which is a closed system. So your blood spirals through your body, through the arteries and capillaries. What you're seeing here is that geometry then brought to life. So lines become curves, and then curves become curvilinear planes, as the inorganic geometry becomes the organic life form. So what we're doing here is we pulled the inside out. This is actually known as the prolate. The blood actually comes in here and then is ejected out. So sucked in, pressured out. And now you see all the forms together. So the Chestahedron, here it is building up again, point, line, triangle, tetrahedron. The tetrahedron opens up, the Chestahedron is formed. So that blue, this is actually the left ventricle of the human heart. So that's the outer geometry and the inner geometry. In between the inner geometry and the outer geometry is 8 layers. The heart is made of 8 layers. And if you see this picture right up here, we got the guy's name, Decatur, did a very detailed study on the heart. And these are the 8 layers that would be between the inner and the outer. So here we're seeing the organic green, the inorganic blue, inorganic red, and then the organic. So we go through and we focus on each form. So knowing this geometry, so the chestahedron is actually the heart in perfect balance. But whose heart is in perfect balance? So through Frank's continued research, he discovered that there's a continuum of geometries that a heart can fall within. And that continuum is actually how heart disease is covered in. So you go from congestive heart failure. So he actually has discovered the geometry of congestive heart failure through his research. So based on knowing the geometry of the heart, you can actually maybe take a picture of someone's heart and know how far along they are within heart disease. Know it geometrically through the geometry. So you can know how much preventative measures you have to take with that individual, whether it's really late and you got to go full bore, or if it's really early and you can take your time.
And what shape does it go toward in countries of failure?
It's funny that so the 7, the chestahedron, the 7 starts to become 6. So 6 meaning the chestahedron starts to transform into a cube. So it starts to go back to a cube. So that's when you know, when the 6 becomes 7, that's when you know it's a very, very well developed congestive heart disease is on its way. So the geometry shows the health of the body, the health of the individual, the health of the heart. So being with this form, this is the perfectly balanced heart, the chestahedron. So being near that form, you're resonating with that frequency of balance. And so, like Sebastian mentioned, a little too excited brings you into balance. A little underexcited brings you into balance. It's all about balance. So the more balance you have in your life, the more harmony you get in your life. The more harmony you have in your life, the more joy comes to your life. The more joy comes to your life, the more your life becomes love. You have the experience of love.
So all these pictures that are now on computer, Frank doesn't need computer to see them. That's an important part of all of these. It's not that there's something wrong with the computers. We're not afraid of using them. But the important part is to develop our own capacity to be able to see these shapes and to be discovered. You needed a human consciousness to be able to see that, and then we can put up a computer. But the computer cannot find new solution, but the human being can. Any questions or wondering? Comment, concern? Any question, concern? Yes?
With the, I was wondering if there was any, like, you guys have made like a version of that chair with the square, because you mentioned the difference between like the cathedral shape and the office buildings. I was wondering if you had tried that chair with a square and tried the same patch, like to see if there's any difference.
We haven't. Like to make a chair like in a cube and test it? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been thinking about it a lot lately. And I hope we can do it. We haven't done yet. I think it would be really interesting. Yeah.
How did you become interested in this?
How did I become
Like
interested?
in the studies, like Frank's work?
I got to meet Frank almost 14 years ago when he had just discovered the form. I just met him like that, and I really liked him as a person. And wanted to know what else he had discovered, and I kind of like, we stayed friends over the years. But I really felt like it's rare that there's something new that's discovered. It's often re-engaging the past, but something that's really was not seen on the earth before, and actually, whoops, suddenly there's something that is able to come in. And I really felt like there's something really new, and that really interested me. Any other questions?
I think Alex had a question.
Yeah, I have a question. Have you done like control experiments, like for instance the spinning of the water? Have you tried with different shapes and things like that to see like if other factors could contribute to the results you get?
We've not done a whole lot of control, and this summer I'm testing different things. As you've seen, there's a lot of bubbles that comes in when it runs, so we wonder, is it just the fact that there's a lot of bubble, oxygen in the water? So now I'm making an experiment where I have water in a similar tank that I just filled with bubbles. I buy stones and just fill it with bubbles. So it's going to be this summer to go deeper.
That's
Yeah,
cool,
with bubbles and perhaps different shapes. We've tried to mix, spin different shape, and it doesn't create that rhythm that comes with it. With different shape, there's a vortex that forms, but then it never changes. It just keeps going. And that was very exciting to see that suddenly it goes and suddenly, boom, this other phenomenon where the oxygen gets drawn in and the bubble just fills the tank. That rhythm between kind of the chaos moment of when the bubbles all come in and the ordered vortex, this rhythm between those two. That's the only shape we've seen that thus far does it. And I tried a bunch of shapes. I always like kind of tinkering with different things. And in biodynamics, we actually, that's one way that Rudolf Steiner indicated how to improve agriculture. We use medicine, homeopathic kind of plants. And to offer it to the land, you put it in a big barrels and you mix, you create a big vortex and you make it, and then break it as strong as you can, and it creates tons of bubble. And then you reform the vortex the other way. And you do that one side and the other for like an hour. And then the medicine that you put in has kind of permeated the water. And then you can offer it. And that's been used and very useful. So it's known that vortex allows the water, the alternation between chaos and vortex, allow the water to be permeable, to receive whatever quality of thoughts or plant or medicine you put with it. Then it permeates the water afterwards. And that's how homeopathy was discovered. Actually, a doctor was driving his horses. And he was going on his horses, so all these vials would go up and down and would basically create little vortices in there. And he discovered that all his medicines were more potent after he had gone on long rides with his horse to bring the medicine to the people. And that's how he discovered that if you do concussion in water, it potentializes the water, and the medicine is able to then really permeate what's in there. So it's using a similar technology. Now we have chaos and order, exactly where that balance form is. So best understanding is actually the quality and the thoughts that are in that geometry are being kind of impressed into the water, and then the water carries this balancing effect through. But I'll let you know more.
Yeah.
It keeps going after the summer, more results, a bit more facts. So this was a little bit more.
So you can, as Mr. Pu is saying, you can look at the things that we have over here, and in here there's the beginning of the new form gallery of Frank's work. And then on the table over here we have new. Some of you in your last class at Academe with Mr. Dupuy got to cut out and make a little Chestahedron. And when we got back here, we just printed new ones that are, that have a picture of a tourmaline crystal. So each one of you, if you would like, can take one of those, and you can either make it here or take it with you as another activity you can do while you're here. Or about how much longer do we have before you need to leave?
Pretty soon, probably.
15
Yeah.
minutes or so?
Enough, yeah.
So just wander around and head out to the van.
It's very spicy.
It's not hard. Oh, no,
Which one of these?
And the money is spent on the other things, whether we use it or not.
Yep. That's true. We have 80 of them. We have 20 of them. All of us, we have it.
Because there's nothing else on it but me.
No, unless we use Moon, and then we're going home tomorrow.
Oh, because their time
I mean, even if we went to the Exploratorium, if we went straight there, we would get there at 3 o'clock. That would be just 2 hours. Which could be fun. Then we'd try around again. So you just go to hang, let them out, find a place to have dinner there, when they're there, and go back at 7. That would give them like 4 hours. That would give them, if we get there at 3, they could have 2 hours of walk around time till 5, an hour for dinner, 6, back to the place at 7. Yeah, very cheap as we can find. It'd be nice. I wish we could just give them, I wish we would just make them have dinner on there.
I know.
You know, and just say, go have dinner. I know. And like, I don't know, could we get, what if we got $200 and just gave them $2? He said, here you go, this is your dinner. Or wherever you can find, a coffee shop, a sandwich shop, a salad shop.
Yeah.
What's his first name, Dylan? Is it Michael Schneider? I think it's that.
You know what? It's so funny because you're talking about the art.
Yeah, it's really nice.
One thing I noticed that Google, oh yeah, I love it. And you know the shrine with like sort of standing platform? Yeah, oh yeah. They even had treadmills you could run on anywhere. It had these little pods that you can rest in, like nano pods. I think Google would love this. It's so funny because it's like concentration.
I mean, in some ways it's good. That reality is
Well, yeah.
and I can't say that
It's a very different company.
scientific level, the why, but it's kind of why is there change?
Go through that door, keep going straight. And you can get it in the store after getting some $5. He teaches here. actually in the region. And we have a little, we have a email, we send a little newsletter. That's one of the parts we want to integrate, like the way. The office, the down the street. And I have a card there, if you want to screen touch me.